Hi, my name is Dustin Fetterspiel. I've been collecting Coleman lanterns and stoves for about 15 years. In this video, I'd like to show you my Model 2D camp stove from Coleman. These were manufactured in around 1928 to 1931, and they're interesting in that they use a hot blast lighting method. This is a little different than the lighting method that most of us are used to on the green suitcase stoves that they produced later on. So I wanted to show you that the fuel tank has some brackets that connect to the generator and kind of secure it in place. And this whole assembly sort of moves as one. So there's actually two different positions for this generator when you go to work with the stove. There's one position that's basically the preheating position, and there's a second position where the generator is moved into the operational position. So what facilitates that is this bracket here. You can see that down below there's a metal rod, and this little bracket swivels, and so it can take on a beginning position and then an operating position. And right now it's in the position that you would start with. You have the preheater cup here, which would contain a little bit of liquid fuel in order to preheat the tip of the generator, and that's where the tip of the generator would fit, right there. I'll show you that in a minute. And then this bracket swivels on that rod, and it moves the opening here in front of the intake to the burner manifold. So let me put it back in the first position, and I will go ahead and show you how the tank fits in there. Before we move on, I wanted to let you know that I've filled the fuel tank about half full with Coleman white gas fuel. I've left plenty of airspace above the fuel so the tank can pressurize properly. I then pumped the tank up with about 25 to 30 pumps. And being that this stove is nearly 100 years old, I've gone over the connections thoroughly to make sure that there is no fuel leaking. I also have a fire extinguisher nearby, and of course we're going to light this outside, away from anything that could be flammable. Now we're going to go ahead and position the tank and generator in the starting preheat condition. As you remember, this bracket in here swivels, and it is in the preheat position where the opening here is just above the preheat cup. So we're going to then lift up our tank, and we're going to tilt it at an angle, and we're going to put the tip of the generator in that little hole on the left side of the bracket, and the right side of the bracket has a slot, and we're going to lift up and angle that generator on the right side into that slot and pull it back, and then gently lower the tank down so it rests on the frame. That's going to be our starting position where we preheat the generator. Basically the process is we're going to let a little bit of raw fuel fill up that preheat cup, and we're going to then close the valve, and we're going to light that fuel up and let it burn for about 60 seconds while it heats up the tip of the generator here. And that's going to help in the vaporization of the fuel and getting it ready for normal operation. If we don't get the generator tip hot enough, it won't vaporize the fuel effectively, and it will be mostly liquid, and we'll probably have a ton of flames that we don't want, and we need to give it plenty of time to preheat. So next I will show you how we start filling the preheat cup and go from there. Before we actually start lighting the stove, let me first show you how the fuel tank and generator toggle into the normal operating position. Right now you can see it's in the preheat position. Once the tip of the generator is hot enough, we will toggle the position into the normal operating mode, and that is done by lifting up on the tank gently and pushing forward, and you can see the bracket swivels forward, moving the tip of the generator in front of the inlet to the burner manifold, and then at that point we'll be ready to light up the main burner. The fuel will be coming out very hot and vaporized, and it'll be primed for lighting. Okay, I think we're ready to begin the preheat process. I'm going to go ahead and put the key on the valve here on the end of the generator, and we're going to open it to let a little bit of raw fuel into that preheater cup. And as soon as we fill a little bit of fuel in there, we're going to close the valve again right away. So here we go. There's some raw fuel coming in, and I've got plenty in there. I'm going to close that valve right away. And at this point, we're ready to light the preheat cup and let it warm up the tip of the generator for about 60 seconds. So I'm just going to use a butane torch here. And the fuel in the preheat cup is now lit, and we're going to wait about 60 seconds. During this process, you may hear some hissing, and that is some of the raw fuel that was left in the generator there getting heated up and escaping out the tip of the generator, and that's completely normal. So again, this is going to prime us for normal operation. It's going to get that generator nice and hot, so when the liquid fuel passes through it, it's going to vaporize and allow the stove to burn very efficiently. So I can hear some light hissing now. That's normal. As soon as the preheat cup is almost empty here, or around 60 seconds, I'm going to go ahead and open the valve much wider, and that's going to let a lot of fuel into the system, and you're going to hear a roaring sound, and the flame should turn to a light blue. You won't be able to see a lot of it, but we'll let that go for 20 seconds or so, and then we'll position the stove in the normal operating position and light the main burner. So the fuel in the preheat cup is burning down. It's nearly gone. Let's give it about 15 more seconds or so here. All right, I think we're quite warm enough. That generator tip's ready to go. We're going to open the fuel valve to let the fuel flow. That roaring sound you hear is normal. That's part of this hot blast lighting procedure. So I'm going to get my butane torch ready to light the main burner, and we're going to move the fuel tank and generator into the normal operating position here in just a moment. Here we go. Now I'm going to light the main burner. And it's lit. I'm just going to open it and add a little more fuel. There we go. Now you can see it a lot better. It's a little hot. What I'm going to do is open the second burner valve and start that burner up, and that should help reduce the flame a little bit. Opening the second burner valve and lighting that second burner. And there you have it. We have successfully lit up this Coleman Model 2D stove. Let me turn it up just a little more. A little more fuel so you can see the flames a little better. There we go. Hopefully you can see that on the video. Quite an interesting piece of history for sure.